Hi, welcome to the Catholic Corner. I'm Msgr Walter Nolan. Hey, ever kind of said to yourself, what about these retired priests? What do they do after they retire? Well, my guest today is a very, very dear friend of mine and a great priest in our diocese, Msgr Ladzinski. Everybody calls him Casey. Casey's been retired now, probably not even a year or so. He's been a priest 50 years. I think Casey's been in almost every position in the diocese, and I don't know, maybe almost every parish in the diocese. His first assignment was St. Hedwig's in Trenton, 1962. He served as the director of Mercer County CYO from 62 to 70. He also served as the associate pastor or administration at Holy Trinity in Helmetta, Sacred Heart Church in South Amboy, St. Justin's Church in Toms River, and Holy Innocents Church in Neptune. He's been a good pastor at St. Stephen's Church in Perth Amboy, St. Joseph's Church in Toms River, St. Aloysius Church in Jackson, St. Rose Church in Belmar, and the Church of the Sacred Heart in Bayhead. And from 1980 to 1986, he did a marvelous job serving the Diocese of Trenton as the priest personnel director. Msgr Casey is a native of the Diocese of Trenton, having attended St. Casimir's School in Riverside, and he's been a great friend not only to myself but to all of the priests, and just a beautiful, beautiful guy. Case, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, my pleasure, Walt.
You know, in the New Testament, in the book of Hebrews, chapter 7, verse 17, St. Paul writes, "You're a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek." So we never stop being a priest,
That's right.
even though we might retire. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, after you retire, it's the same and it's different. It's the same in this sense that, priesthood, the relationship with Jesus, and take care of other people. So that does not stop. That's something you have to continue to work on, However, taking care of people is different now. As a pastor, you're worrying about the buildings, take care of the bills. As a retired priest, you don't do that. You really listen to people and their needs, and you're able to respond to them. I still help out in some parishes. I'm able to listen to people. So in that sense, it's a little bit different. I'm not too much involved in administration, but I can focus more and more on people, their lives, and what's happening in their life.
So it's not even been a year yet that you've
Not
been
a year,
retired?
July 1st will be a year. I'll celebrate.
Call me up.
Good.
But so where were you? So when you retired, you were from Bayhead.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Now, did you find something when you first retired, weeks, months? I mean, was there a difference in your life? I know you're saying, well, you don't have to pay the bills, you don't have to worry about the leaks.
Yeah.
I mean, but what about the fact that you're no longer part of those people's lives? And because you were there, well, you've been a priest a long time.
Yeah,
And you
I had
touched
13
many lives,
assignments.
Yeah.
Well, I sort of prepared. I knew it was coming. At 75, I was supposed to write my letter. So I did a little reading about retirement, and I also remember a business model. You learn, you earn, and you return. I studied, I worked, and now I still keep asking my God, I'm sure you want me to do something else yet. I still haven't answered that question completely. I know God has something in store for me. So I keep praying a little bit over that, and I think there's something else God wants me to do yet, and I haven't figured it out yet. So I'm talking to God, and He'll send me an email one of these days.
Maybe He'll want you to take over a parish in Alaska or someplace.
No, I don't think that's
Not
going
that
to
far.
happen.
Not
I
that
love
far.
Jersey. The Diocese of Trenton's been great.
Yeah, it's a good place.
Jersey
We've been
has-
blessed to have great bishops and
Yeah, right.
and good friends. So where are you living now?
Mostly in my car. But, I live at John Vianney. We have a retirement home for the diocesan priests. As a matter of fact, that's my primary ministry right now. There's a few other retired priests there. We have assisted living. I try to minister to them. I mean, there's some older guys that can't get to the hospital. They need some help. I tell them what's going on in the diocese. It's really a ministry right there. That's my new family. They're my new parishioners now. And I share with those guys, and it's a pleasure. They have a lot of stories to tell. We share a lot of stories. So for me, it has really worked out well to be with the fellow priests there. It's been great.
What about your own family? You know, when we get our age, of course, just like everybody else, you know, mom and dad is gone, etc. How do you see a difference there too with the young generation calling you Uncle Case or?
They are calling me. Now I'm doing weddings. Although one of my grandnieces had twins, the other one's expecting in May, so it's going to be baptisms now, you know. Fortunately, yeah, I had 4 sisters. I still have 1 sister left. Sister Julia, she's a retired nun, 90 years old, Reading, Pennsylvania. I phone her every Saturday. If I don't, she phones me once to know if I'm still alive, you know, and then see what I'm doing. But my nieces and grandnieces and grandnephews, it's just been wonderful. I've had 2 weddings this year. I have another one coming up in May. So the weddings have been keeping me busy, you know. And now I'm babysitting for the kids. It's great. They're keeping me young. They're keeping me young.
Do you find you have more time now to, like before you might do a wedding, you know, hop in a car, hop on an airplane, you fly there, and 2 hours later you're flying back?
Yeah.
I mean, you have the time now to say, well, I can stay for the weekend, or I can stay for a couple of days?
That's really the nicest. You get to know real. I remember I went out to Chicago for a wedding, and the Cubs and Phillies were playing. So we went to Cubs and Phillies, and I said, you know, who's driving? Uncle Case. We're taking a limo. We're not driving.
Things have changed. Things have changed.
Says, holy moly, we're going in a limo, you know. So it was just, they really keep me young. And even their children now, you know, it's just wonderful to share with them. It's a lot of fun. I babysat last week. I went up to Greenwich. One of my grandnephews, let's see, can't think of his name now, Todd. And his wife had to go out, and I said, well, I'll stay with the kids for a while. Took me an hour and a half to put that one kid to bed. He wouldn't go to bed, you know. I was ready to give him a shot to put him to bed, you know.
Well, someday you're going to get to the time when he'll be putting you to bed,
Yeah, that's
you know.
right.
So we got Uncle Case in bed. Now we can have some fun.
They're wonderful. And fortunately, you know, my brothers and sisters had children. They have children's children. Sure. It's just great. It's great, yeah.
So what are some of your aspirations now that you're retired? I mean, you say, well, I'm still waiting for God to give me another job. I know you help out on a weekend or do certain things.
I help out mostly at St. Anne's, and I have a few other churches I help out. I help out down in Manasquan and so forth. I'm still involved in Georgia Court University. I got on a board of trustees, and we're involved in the Year of the Faith. So we set up a committee, got some projects going, and we just got a grant, so I have to spend the money from this grant now, you know, it's interesting. So that's been good too, to keep in touch with Georgian Court. I do a little traveling and so forth. I keep up with the sports and so forth. I had a chance to see the Phillies in the spring training. I even applied for a job with the Phillies, you know.
Tell me about that.
Well, one of my buddies, Rich Sneesick, got a job with the Boston Red Sox. He has a place in Fort Myers. He was giving tours of the stadium. I says, I could do
He's
that.
a retired guy.
He's retired, yeah. Rich is down, he has a place in Maine in there. So I applied. I'm not qualified to sell hot dogs and Miller High Life.
Did you really apply for a job?
I did, I applied. I didn't get a job.
What did they say to you?
They didn't even respond. I think I was underqualified, you know. But it was good. But I went down to see them. Phillies and Yankees and Phillies in Detroit. Yeah, it was good.
So you had a little bit of fun.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Physically, what do you do to keep yourself in shape? Because I think that's an important part of our lives now, you know, to make sure that we don't just sit in a chair.
One of my assignments I got to was pretty quiet. The people had moved away and so forth. So I joined the health club. I tell everybody I go to the health club religiously, and it's really good for me. Health-wise, I've had a couple knee operations, and I have to keep them going. So I do a lot of exercise. I play a little golf. You know, we get out every now and then. But the health clubs have been really a blessing. And, you know, that becomes a community, too. They get to know who you are. They want to talk to you. They want to go to confession in the locker room. So you're really ministering to these people all the time, you know. And it's a great, they get to know you're a priest after a while somehow or other. And they want to talk to you on the side. Can we get together for lunch and things like that? So it's a real ministry, you know. God has God's own ways. And he puts you in situations where you just share with the people. And fortunately, the people, they still have high respect for the clergy. Mm-hmm. We might have some bad headlines in the news, but some people are really good that way. They really just want to talk.
you know, the majority of our fellows and the majority of people in the world are very good people and,
Oh,
and
yeah.
really want to help each other and,
Oh, yeah.
and want this to be a better place
Oh,
for,
yeah, it
for,
is,
the,
yeah.
for the kids and everybody else, you know. So you physically you're staying young.
I feel good.
Your golf score is coming down.
Not exactly.
But you at
Depends which
least-
way the wind's blowing.
But you're at least seeing a little more golf courses in
Yeah,
a
a
sense,
little
or a little
bit,
more
little
nature.
bit. Yeah, yeah.
Tell me, how do you find, you know, like the spiritual life? I mean, we are blessed by God, and there's a prayerfulness about our lives. Do you find that when you retire, there's a little more time, or sometimes we're just as busy or busier because we're always traveling someplace?
I still get up at 6 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
That's the best time for me, 6 to maybe 9. Prayer time is good. And I still say some daily masses at St. Anne's and so forth. That's good. I usually go now 2 retreats. I'm looking forward to a retreat in May, going to Cohasset and so forth. I have a spiritual director, and I guess it's a little bit more relaxed. When I go to prayer, I'm not thinking whether the roof is leaking or anymore, you know, or if the kids are going to come to CCD. I think there's a little less distractions. And I just rest in the Lord. I guess my whole prayer now is thanksgiving. I mean, God's been good to me. I'm still healthy. I feel pretty good. I could do a lot of the things I want to do. So it's just gratitude. And it's just nice to just be with God. I hang around. I go out to lunch with God. At night, I have a drink with Jesus.
Does he pick up the tab?
Well, not most of the time, you know. But it's just good to share with Jesus.
Tell me,
He's
Case,
my buddy. He's my buddy.
That's the way it should be all the time. I have a little friendship with God. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Let's go back. You know, you were a priest 50 years.
Yeah.
How did you get into the priesthood? I mean, what was going on in your life?
I was going to Camden Catholic High School. I was down in South Jersey, and I said I got to do something, you know. So I applied for Annapolis, believe it or not.
Did you?
Some politicians told me, you know. So I took the test, and then I also took the test for the seminary. Well, I kept saying, "What do you want to do? What do you want to do?" All of a sudden, I went to the seminary, and they phoned me to take the physical for Annapolis. The rector says, "Make up your mind by tomorrow." So I didn't know what I was going to do. But instead of asking myself, what do you want to do? I said, what does God want me to do? And I never took the physical for Annapolis. And I was in a seminary. I kept asking myself. And as I went along, God just says, come on, keep coming. And that's the way God led me. It's probably the best decision I made in my life, you know. It's been good. Priesthood has been good to me, you know.
There's a real joy in sharing, you know, not only life with God, but sharing life with God with other people. It's really a blessing. I don't know if people can understand it as well. That the more you're involved with people's lives and all aspects of their lives,
the
it's
job
amazing.
satisfaction in our profession, if you want to call it a profession, our calling, is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, you meet, I guess the greatest thing has been not only sharing with God, but the people I've met. I don't think if I was in any other profession, I would meet as many wonderful people as I've met through priesthood. And you know yourself, Walt, they're just great people. I mean, they put us to shame. The sacrifices they're making with their children to educate their children, take care of the sick, the homeless. People have just been an inspiration to me, you know. And I think that's what Vatican II brought out.
And if you're available,
Oh, yeah.
you know, the day there's never a part of the day that you don't have something to do or something to be part of.
I don't have any. Matter of fact, I had a fear at first. What am I going to do with all this time? Well, I don't have time for everything now, and I thank God for that. You got to keep going, you know, and stuff. It's easier to go see a movie now, to read a little book. The only problem is I fall asleep reading books anymore. You know, that's the whole problem with that.
So you can make up your own ending now.
But I have an appointment book, and it's pretty well filled up with all kind of stuff, you know. And, you know, a lot of our priests are by themselves now. So just to give them a break, you know, go there for a day or two, say masses for them, funerals. For example, Vince Gartland at St. Anne's, Monsignor, he's by himself. So, you know, every now and then it gets piled up, and it's great to help the guys out. Great to help.
When you look back, you know, I mean, 50 years ago, and then put the time of the seminary, what kind of changes have you seen, and was it what you expected? I mean, did you think you're going to be ordained and be the same thing 50 years later?
Fortunately, I was ordained in 1962. That's when, the Pope called the Vatican Council.
On the 23rd.
It has not been boring since then. I mean, in the seminary, every day was something new happening. And even when I got to the parish, and even now, we just celebrated the 50th anniversary of Vatican II. I think these have been 50 of the most exciting years in the Roman Catholic Church. And I had a privilege to work with those years. And even now, I think one of the bishops said Vatican II just began after the 50th anniversary. So I think it's been exciting with the new popes. And the wonderful thing, I think, has been when I went to the priesthood, the priest was everything. He was the parish. But Vatican II, we were reminded that we're all baptized. The laity have done such wonderful things in the church now that they put us priests to shame. They're the ones out there making the sacrifices, praying. I just think it was a wonderful age to be a priest in the Catholic Church in the Diocese of Trenton.
And all over, I think, though, really, I do. You've done some work outside the diocese. I've done some work outside the diocese. It's amazing. Maybe our accents are a little different or whatever, but the people are genuinely hungry. I just think there's a great spirituality going on, and I guess we all would wish maybe more would celebrate the Eucharist or whatever. But deep inside of people, I think there's a yearning for something more and something good, and certainly they certainly want to share it with their children. And
they do.
It's as you said,
the sacrifices people are making for their children. I never realized how much sacrifice my parents made for me.
Sure.
So I can go to school and be healthy and all that stuff. And that parents, a lot of wonderful parents, don't enough credit. They don't get enough credit.
So when are you going to write your book?
I've thought about it. We both work in personnel work, so we have a lot of stories. I'm not sure we should write about all of them.
No.
But every now and then I think about this. But, I go to Barnes & Noble, I said, who's going to read my book? After I see all these books printed, so maybe I'll just take them with me, all these memories.
Well, if you want to write your book, what would some of your chapters be? What are some of the memories or some of the stories that you remember that, would just...
I remember a fella telling me, he said, I said, how you doing? How's you and your wife? He says, well, Father, happy wife, happy life. So when I was in personnel, I really love the guys. And if it's a happy priest, there'll be a happy parish and happy parishioners. So I guess a lot of the stories with the priest, the things that priests have done that I've never had a chance, but there have been so many wonderful things happening in a parish. How much time do we have for this program?
Yeah.
It's just hard to describe all the wonderful situations that have happened.
But you're right, when whether it's priesthood, married life, single life, I say this so often to people, are you having fun? And I don't mean parties, but is there a joy going on in your life?
Yeah.
I know you can, when there's a joy to celebrate the Eucharist, you just kind of bring people into that blessedness, and there's a joy to see people, and there's a joy to baptize the baby or whatever it happens to be. But there's even a joy, and I say this in kind of quotes, I think, Case. There's a privilege even to walk in people's pain, that they invite you into their pain so that you can at least maybe, because we don't have the answers, but we can walk with them just like the Lord walks with us through our pain and through those. So they're really, when you look back, you say, gosh, it's a privilege to know that someone would allow us to share the story. There's a gentleman who once said that you can almost solve some of the problems of the world just by telling the story. Let people tell their stories to you, and then listen to their stories, and let the story be a healing process for them.
Recently I was at St. Hedwig's, and a lady came out of the church, and she says, do you remember me? And I says, not exactly. She says, well, you baptized me 47 years ago. That was my first assignment. I said, well, you look a little different.
Yeah, right.
Then I was at St. Anne's, and a couple come up. I blessed their wedding 27 years ago. What a joy that was for me, that I was involved in their life, and they even remembered me. But people remember, like baptisms, marriage. You've gone through the same experience, I think. So
what's nice is that we're still here to be able to listen to them and to still hear them. you had a lot of assignments, more so than a lot of guys
13.
do. You know?
I can't hold a job. Well, what happened at the beginning, my first assignment here, then I was made administrator of a lot of parishes, and there was a lot of difficult situations. And it was really interesting. That's how I got to know things. And then personnel, you know, that was, I remember one of my assignments, I was sent to St. Stephen's in Perth Amboy. And I was on the personnel board, and they said, you go to St. I said, I don't want to go there. So I got a phone call from Procaccini, Father Procaccini, and I says, I'm not going there. So Sunday night, I wrote a letter to George R., Bishop R. And I sent the letter Monday morning. Tuesday, I was pastor in St. Stephen's, Perth. I says, oh, man. And you know what? That probably was one of my best assignments. I didn't want to be there. And yet, it was very rewarding working in the inner city with these people, trying to get the parish together. And I didn't want to go there. And it worked out fine. In reference to personnel, though, that was probably my best assignment. I saw the priests working hard. Some had some difficulties and challenges, but that was very rewarding. And I'm still interested in the priests. They're great guys. They're great guys. And sometimes people don't see the greatness in some of these wonderful men. You and I have had that privilege through personnel.
Well, we also had the privilege, not just through personnel, but I think we have the privilege of realizing that we're all different.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, we all have different personalities.
Yeah.
When some guys are quiet, some guys are very outspoken, but yet we know that they really do want the people to kind of yearn, you know, as the psalmist says, you know, yearn for the running waters, as the deer yearns for the running water, so do we yearn for God's love and the blessings, and that's a privilege to kind of keep that together with each other, you know. So you got this dream of working with the Phillies. Are you still going to try to somehow let them know that? Maybe they'll be watching this show and they'll call you up to be their chaplain.
I love to play second base. Now they have, who's there? What's the guy's name? I can't, the left, he's the hitter. He's not giving up, so I don't think I'm going to get the job, you know. No, I don't think I'll apply for the job. I'll just go visit and root for the Phillies. So they beat the Mets. That's your team.
Well, that's all right. Maybe we can both go to fantasy camp and,
that's right. Right.
See what would have happened, you know, if only this or only that. Your stories do stand out for us, you know, and I think it's the stories that become, you know, part of our storytelling, so to speak. You know, how do you use stories when you preach and put together your time to share God's parables?
You have to have one or two stories. The more personal they are. I bumped into a guy this past weekend, and I was pastor in Bayhead, and he started telling me all about my life. And I says, I guess I must have told stories about my family, that he remembered all this stuff. I don't think he remembered what the sermon was about. He remembered everything about my family and my background, you know. So you and I both know if you don't have a story, and that's what the people remember. You have to have one story, two stories, and not making stuff up. This is real life stuff. I watch one of the TV networks, and they have, what's the end of the program, Making a Difference. I watch those stories, and I share them with the people because people are making a difference every day. And if you're plugged into Jesus and working with Jesus, there's going to be stories all over the place, making a difference. And there are people making a difference every day.
You know, in our life, you know, Monsignor, when we started out, you started out a little bit before I did, but there was a difference in the church in a sense, even in priesthood, meaning that the priests then really didn't retire. No. In a sense, they did, but they didn't. I mean, they might have stayed in the same rectory, and a younger priest might have been doing most of the administrative work. And now we do retire. Yeah. At 75, they like you to write a letter and all that kind of thing. How about like when I know you mentor sometimes with some of the younger priests and as well as the older priests? How do you see the future? I mean, good for fellows to retire, or should they prepare for their retirement at a certain age? Oh, yeah. Is there anything you can think about that says, you know, because a lot of the retired fellows still have energy and still have a desire to do some kind of ministry?
When people say I'm retired, it's not. It's another cycle in my life. So, like I said, I'm still trying to figure it all out yet, but there's so many other things to do for other people in different ways. I mean, when I went to my first assignment, the pastor, Msgr Ladzinski, he was there before I was born. He was there 30-some years. I was 25 years old. And I watched him, it got very much difficult, and, I ended up burying the man, I think it's good that there comes a point where I think we just don't have the zip. The only problem now is we also don't have the horses to take to keep the race going, So I guess history will tell whether it's good to keep on going and going and going, or...
You know how I look at it sometimes, Case? Like we're like the grandfather.
Yeah,
and there's
that's a good way to look at it.
There's something about the young and the grandfather that jumps over the parents, so to speak.
Right. Yeah.
And whether it's the youngsters who look at us, or even the younger priests who somehow can say, okay, you guys have been through the wars, but what I find interesting is that you tend to think that everybody knows the way life was when you were a kid.
Right.
The other day I was talking about the movie that's out now about Jackie Robinson and baseball, and you and I both love baseball. Yeah. And when I started to talk to a group about it, I started to realize that the younger ones were like confused and saying, well, what do you mean? What did go on back then? And yet to be able to kind of make those connections in a peaceful way, because, a grandfather doesn't have to discipline you, and a grandfather doesn't have to. Now I think we're at that age where we can also, with some wisdom, realize that, there's a great God who loves us, but we have our struggles and all kind of, and yet the young ones can look to us, I think, and put that trust there in a different way.
I was fortunate in some of the parishes, they were sending seminarians to me in the summertime, just to share with them. Mm. And I remember one priest came in Friday night, and I said, you want to go out? I got a couple things. And we went to 5 different places. And we came home, and he said to me, do you do this every day? He was almost ready to leave the ministry. But that was a pleasure to just share with these guys, and now they're ordained, and they're pastors now, and we are really their grandfathers now, It's a great experience to share with those guys, It's been great.
Yeah, and I think they also can come and talk to us and realize that we're just like their older brother in a way. And
I think you and I have to say thank you. We've been healthy enough to live, quite a few years,
Yeah.
I mean, we've also had some of our brothers who have passed away younger. So I thank God for that life. I hope he gives me a blessing and steers me in the right direction.
Case, thank you for your friendship, brother. You've been a blessed, Monsignor Casey, myself. Please pray for us and know that we just love you and still will love you and always love you. Thanks, Case.
God bless.
Thank you very much. Yeah.